Hey everybody, this is Zac Linton. I wanted to make a video chronicling some of the testimonies from my recent trip out to Chico to minister to the fire victims that were devastated by the California Campfire tragedy that recently took place. If you haven't seen it already, please watch the first video entitled Through the Fire, My Journey to Chico to Minister to the Refugees. It'll give you an overview of the entire time that I was up there. This interview that you're about to see is a gentleman named Chris. I actually met him at the Walmart encampment, and his story blew me away. And I think you're going to be very blessed, so enjoy this video. Okay, so I am here with a new friend named Chris that I just met back at the taco trucks. This is Tuesday, the 20th of November. We're near the Walmart encampment, which is supposedly going to be cleared out today, but I just had the privilege to meet Chris while we were having some food. And Chris has a phenomenal story, and I just thought maybe you could share a little bit about your story with us.
Okay. I feel kind of awkward talking to a camera, but
so I'm gonna come over this way, so it's more like you and I are having a conversation.
Okay, yeah, that might
so
be
Chris was a survivor from the disaster, and maybe you could just start with that.
Okay. So I guess probably where I've been starting my story is with the, I woke up like any other morning, watched the news, nothing about a fire on the news. After the news was over, about an hour and a half, I got the alert to evacuate. And it's not the first time we've seen evacuation warnings up there, but when I got the alert, there were so many zones. It was at least half the town that was being evacuated, and I had no clue. And I looked out my front door, and I could see that there was fire all the way around me, 360 degrees. A friend of mine's house, kitty corner to me, is actually Radar's wife from MASH. She lives there.
Wow.
Her house was completely engulfed. I grabbed the hose. I started watering down my house and watering down little spot fires that were starting everywhere. Little embers were coming down, starting fires. After I got that settled, I grabbed my go bag, put my cats in their carriers, threw my jacket and my phone in my car. And kind of to show you the mental state that I was in, I have 4 cats, put them all in my carriers. Later on I came back. I didn't latch one of those carrier doors right. They all got out, but they were in the house. But I was just frazzled.
Yeah.
And so the second time I'm going out, after I thought I was packed up, and I'm hosing things down. Each time I went out, just one house over was the road I needed to evacuate, and it just wasn't moving. So I didn't really see a big point of, just getting into a non-stop stream of traffic that just wasn't moving.
Right.
So I figured, I'm just safest right now at my house, hosting some things down. And there was one part that was a little bit haunting for me when that was happening, because it wasn't even that far. I could hear the flames roaring over the street and all the cars laying on the horns that could not move.
Wow.
And in hindsight, I started kind of guessing myself whether I could have helped them. And I don't think it was this morning that I realized that I couldn't have, because there was no hoses in any of my neighbors' houses that would have even reached at the time. But as I'm out there hosing, 4 firemen came up and they were giving out the evacuation order. They asked me if I knew about it, and I told them, yeah, I've put out a bunch of fires already. One of my neighbors' houses was about to catch on fire. Probably 20-30 minutes it would have for sure. The fires were traveling on wooden fences really fast, faster than it was on the ground. And the firefighters went through my yard. They asked me if I could come through my yard. They actually didn't go through the gate. I let them through the house, and they went through my yard. And they got there, and there was no hoses. And in their words, literally, they said, fuck it, and they left. And that wasn't their mission to protect the houses at the time. It was just to evacuate people. Right. So at that point in time, I knew I needed to start defending my neighbors' houses. So I grabbed another 200 foot of hose, and I put that fire out. And then went checked my neighbors across the street. So there was fires going there. Eventually I got about 3 hoses going on 4 different properties, and I just ran from house to house to house, never putting out a fire completely, because another fire would start up somewhere. So I would just leave the hose where I was at, go put out another fire. Essentially did that for 28 hours straight. I didn't want to stop. I was afraid if I stopped, that would be my demise. And I have rheumatoid arthritis. I've had it about 10 years. Towards the end of the night, it got to the point where I could hardly even walk. But it was all a ground fire. There wasn't a lot of smoke. I never really felt like I was in danger, and I wasn't committed to staying there either. I would run. The one thing I didn't take into account, and I recognized it that night, was that some of the roads might have been blocked. If I tried to run, I might not have made it out.
Yeah. Now, did some of the people in that long traffic line actually get burned up?
No, I don't think so, because what it had looked like to me later was that they just pulled off to the sides, and there's no sidewalk or anything. They're just ditches.
And then they just went out on foot,
yeah,
basically?
They went out on foot. And I've heard a lot of stories about people doing that and other people just picking them up, saying jump in the back of the truck or something like that. But that's kind of essentially how it was all night, just spot to spot to spot. But the one thing I had mentioned, there was one point in the night where or during the day, where it got so black, where I could see, there was some clearing up in the sky, and you could see the stars in the middle of the day.
Wow.
And it looked like ash at first, so that was kind of confusing me. And the ash that was coming down, it sounded like rain. It was so, I guess, big chunks of ash.
Did you have a mask on at least while you were doing all that? Or wow, you were just breathing in the smoke. Yeah. Wow.
And so I think it was, fire trucks were coming through, but they weren't stopping. A couple of fire guys later on, probably about 4 in the morning, the water had run out, and they were coming through about that time and stopping and mopping things up and checking out the structures. And a couple of the firemen came and went on the other side of my house, and you can't get around one side, but you can get around the other side. And so when the guy came around the other side, I initially shocked him. I kind of shocked a lot of people because nobody's expecting to see a citizen there.
Yeah.
Even PG&E workers, they'd be, so I told this fireman my story. He goes back, and this happened every other time afterwards. Anytime somebody made contact with me, they would go back to the engine, and the captain would come back and talk to me. And so the captain comes back, and not only does he come back, but there's like 5 or 6 guys that all come back with him, and they had to, they just had to see me and check me out, and they're all shaking their heads. And again, their words, I heard this one quite a few times from firemen, that I was a lucky motherfucker, was their words.
Yeah.
Or crazy, too. So, they're all sitting there kind of laughing and giggling at me. I could tell the captain was assessing me of whether I was delirious or whether I was high or something like that.
Yep.
Once he knew that I was okay, he just asked me if I was good. He said, okay, and they left. That was about the time I ran out of water, and I just kept raking leaves after that. What else could I say about it?
So your community was, how did the rest of Paradise look when you left, and what was unique about your community?
Well, yeah, so I had quite a few people tell me. I saved 4 structures, including my own. There's a 5th structure that I believe would have, or 4 houses, I should say. A 5th house that I believe would have survived without my intervention, because they had a landscaper that came over every week, and it was evergreens on their yard. I did save some of their landscaping, but the house would have survived without my intervention. And afterwards I laid on the couch for a few days recovering, about 2.5 days, and I was listening to the radio, and I certainly could see in my neighborhood, it's literally an island. Our house is in the middle of nowhere. And when I had left, I'm about a half mile to the main road. I left about a week later, that there was just 2 structures standing. And that was kind of stunning. But then as I entered town, and I just wanted to get out the quickest way. Obviously I was curious, would want to see more, but I didn't want to be in anybody's way. But as I left town, even though I've heard a description of everything, just to see it, just completely gone. It'd just be like this. It was all evaporated. All these cars were suddenly gone.
Yeah.
The shock really hit.
Well, you definitely, it was risky, but you succeeded. You saved your house, you saved other people's, and as you've shared, you almost didn't really seem to have any other reasonable option because the roads were locked.
Yeah.
But certainly, I think if you hadn't have been there, probably everything would have, except for maybe the one other house you were mentioning, all the rest of it would have burned down.
Yeah.
What do you feel like is the bigger impact? How has this changed your perspective, and what are you seeing the community doing in light of all this?
Oh, well, I think the outpouring of people coming here, like a truck from Texas, and people just donating goods, and people such as yourself, just to even do what you're doing here is, it's tremendous for morale. I was just at a restaurant with my friend here, and she lost her dog, and that was the hardest part for, I think, a lot of people. Is a lot of people went to work as they do normally. A lot of people in Paradise work down here in Chico. By the time they got here, they couldn't go back up the hill. And I think just the outpouring of support is just really helping people's morale. And just me personally, it's like I'm almost kind of taking a step back and just trying to take more things in, and some things just don't seem as important as they once were. I was always in a hurry to work, always 5 minutes behind, always rushing here and there, always have more on my plate than I feel I can handle. And now suddenly, all of that doesn't really seem like it even matters anymore.
Yeah.
It just puts things in perspective. Just our community, our friends, our family, our pets. That's what's most important. And it's kind of nice to see, even around here in Chico, because it's a small little town. People get frustrated with the way people drive, and they're cutting each other off and stuff like that, but you're seeing less of that right now. People are being patient. They're letting people out of, these crammed areas where they can get out of, onto the road.
It's bringing out some good qualities in humanity, and I agree with you. I think it's really reminding us that life is a precious gift, and we do need to be present. And obviously I'm a minister, so I believe in God, and I want others to know Him, and so I pray that somehow through this tragedy as well, people will turn their hearts and their eyes back towards that direction.
Yeah, and I think I've been heading that direction more and more as I get older. And I think, I think everybody is probably reevaluating, a lot of things in their life like that.
Yeah.
Got another ring on one side of it, but every time it comes around,
Can I give you a hug, Chris? Seriously. Yeah. It's been a pleasure to make your friendship. And no, really, I'm so sincerely mean that. An unexpected blessing. And I'd love to actually keep in touch with you. So I'm going to give you my card, and then, you use it as you would like to, but I would love to, maybe hear from you. I will probably come back up here again. I'm only going to be here for the next couple days, but then I'll probably come back again maybe in another week or so, and just for 2 weeks. And just see, just as I'm able for a couple days at a time, and just keep helping, keep serving. This is going to be an ongoing situation. And I know that I've talked to a lot of people, and it seems that there's been a really good outpouring of food and clothing donations. But what people really need mostly is just people to love, people to pray with them, people to talk with them, just people to be here, to help people work through this traumatic experience that they've gone through. Is at least what I've heard from a lot of people.
Yeah, we're all still processing this right now, and I'm more fortunate than so many others. And for that, I thank God.
Yeah, amen. Thank you so much, Chris. Seriously, like, it's such a pleasure.